All right, good evening, everyone. Darren Sherbaum, Chief of Police for the Atlanta Police Department. Appreciate you all being here tonight. Going to give you some information on what has transpired over the last few hours and what is continuing to transpire. Approximately 5:30 this evening, a group of individuals that had previously been attending an event not too far from the new site of the Public Safety Training Center left that location and moved toward the training center site, armed with fireworks, rocks, Molotov cocktails, and other device, and launched a coordinated criminal attack against officers that were at that location. The officers adjusted quickly to ensure their safety, held the position until additional officers arrived from DeKalb County, from the Georgia State Patrol, and then moved back in to make an arrest into the area. During that attack on the officers, pieces of equipment and other items that were at the location for the construction of the Public Safety Training Center were damaged, and we're continuing to assess that. Now, since that attack on our officers, we've been joined by the Sandy Springs Police Department, as well as the Sheriff of Fulton County, DeKalb County, and obviously the Georgia State Patrol, and arrests have been made in the area, and detentions actually continue as we speak at this time, and a number of individuals are in custody. We have been joined by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation as well as the FBI, and we are making the appropriate charges as we speak. Actions such as this will not be tolerated. When you attack law enforcement officers, when you damage equipment, you are breaking the law. This was a very violent attack that occurred this evening, very violent attack. This wasn't about a public safety training center. This was about anarchy, and this was about the attempt to destabilize. And we are addressing that quickly. And I want to thank our partners, some of which are here with me tonight, the Chief of DeKalb County, Chief Ramos, the Chief of Sandy Springs Police Department, Chief DeSimone, for their assistance, as well as the Georgia State Patrol and the Sheriff of Fulton County. We will have more information tomorrow on who we've arrested, where they are from, and the charges that have been brought against them. I can tell you, just looking at the initial reports, we continue to see a number of individuals not from Atlanta, Georgia, that are present tonight, undertaking criminal activities to destabilize the construction of a fire and police training center.
Chief, was any of your people injured?
No, we were very fortunate because of the quick actions of the commanders on scene. No police officers were injured. I believe we have released the video of that coordinated attack on the officers, then followed by destruction of the equipment. We are very fortunate tonight, and for the quick action of the officers, not only to reposition themselves, but immediately to go back into the woods and start making arrests of the individuals. I am very proud of the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department and our partners from DeKalb County and the Georgia State Patrol for their actions this evening.
How about the protesters? Were any of the protesters injured?
We had to use less lethal actions to take some individuals into custody. The restraint of our officers were very noteworthy. Some minor discomforts were reported, and they are being seen after by medical authorities that are at the staging area.
Chief, I asked you this question during the downtown protest. I'm going to ask you again tonight. Are these protesters that you guys are dealing with, or rioters at this point?
This is not a protest. I think at that last press conference, I made a clear distinction what a protest looks like. When it's a legitimate protest, you have the full protection of the Atlanta Police Department. This is not a protest. This is criminal activity. And the charges that will be brought forth will show that. When you throw commercial-grade fireworks, when you throw Molotov cocktails, large rocks, a number of items at officers, your only intent is to harm. And the charges are going to show that tonight when we make the appropriate charges.
How many were arrested?
We have detained over 30 at this point, and the appropriate charges are being worked out as we consult with the prosecutors right here in DeKalb County, as well as the Attorney General's office for the state of Georgia.
Let me ask you one more question, Chief. So there's been talk on social media, on the internet, that they are asking people to come and celebrate this music festival. Are you bringing in extra manpower to monitor this week, or what are you guys doing to make sure that things are safe?
We're making the necessary adjustments to ensure this city is safe and that this project continues forward. What we saw was a significant escalation tonight, both in the level of violence that was brought forth and the number of individuals that chose to undertake the violent attack. The adjustment of law enforcement will be just as equal to ensure that this doesn't continue and that citizens can peacefully protest, but criminal activity will not be tolerated in Atlanta, nor tolerated in connection with this project.
Now, while we were on scene, we thought there were a few moments where we heard some gunfire. Was there any gunfire exchange either by officers or by the protesters?
We're not aware of any gunfire, ma'am. We know they were firing fireworks up till very recently, and so that's probably something that you may have heard.
Chief, I know this music festival is properly permitted, of course, but how long ago was it planned out and permitted?
I cannot speak to that, sir.
All right.
No.
Thank you, everybody.
Asking for a week of protest? Are you?
The city of Atlanta has owned this property for more than 100 years, but kind of let it start to go to seed decades ago. That is about to change. Surrounded by a damaged chain link fence, the 80 acres of overgrown property on Key Road will start to transform next spring into the Public Safety Training Center, which won approval in a marathon city council meeting.
It gives us encouragement, but the citizens of Atlanta really take public safety seriously.
The new training facility will replace the old public school campus used until recently to train Atlanta police. The fire facility will replace this training tower, which the city recently condemned as too dangerous to use. The new site still has structures from the old prison farm that closed down decades ago. The site that will emerge here will help modernize police training and attitudes, says Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms.
They will be given the most up-to-date training, not to serve as warriors in our communities, but to serve as guardians in our communities.
The facility will sit across from an old discontinued landfill, alongside a neighborhood of modest vintage houses and a few that are boarded up. The city says the new training facility will include acres of attractive and usable green space that could revitalize this area.
We're not taking the entire parcel. There are hundreds of acres there. We're using 85 acres. There's still going to be an urban forest there.
But the project drew sharp political lines. Backers say the new facility will help the city attract new police officers at a time when jobs are hard to fill. Detractors say this green space should have been made accessible without the police presence.
Our police officers deserve better. We are against destroying our tree canopy. We are against destroying green space.
Bottoms says the city will continue to engage the community about its concerns as the plans are finalized and construction begins early next year.
Trees in the area had been spiked. Tree spiking is when metal rods are hammered into trees, where they can shatter a chainsaw on impact, sending pieces of steel flying, risking death to loggers and anyone standing near. In 1996, a California millworker's jaw was cut in half after a saw made contact with a spike embedded in a tree. 3 more excavators are burned in the forest soon after, photos making the rounds on social media even as local news media made zero mention. Near 24 trucks, excavators, and tractors have been destroyed in the forest, most set on fire. Banks and businesses connected to the project across multiple states have been vandalized by cells operating alone in solidarity with Atlanta's forest defenders.
Well, crazy. I love the city, man. That's just too much for me. Make the image bad.
So is this Antifa, is they welcome here in Atlanta or no?
No, they're not welcome.
So no Antifa in Atlanta?
None.
No.
I wish it didn't exist at all.
Yes. No space for Antifa in Atlanta?
No, absolutely not.
Don't tear up our home.
Right.
This is our backyard. This is what we got to stay in. I mean, it shouldn't happen.
That's right.
That should not happen. This is not the place for that. Because in the long run, we got to live here. Y'all don't. And then people will start to see that. They will see y'all as the enemy.
Just because you don't like something does not mean you can shoot at somebody and expect to not get something happen back to you. You know, it's kind of like cause and effect. For example, if I was to slap him, he has every right to slap me back. No matter that I'm a girl, I put my hands on him first.
None of these people are rioting or from Atlanta. None of them are even from Georgia. So they're like coming here to mess up life for people in Georgia.
I don't agree with that. That's absolutely wrong. If you're going to come here and do that, you might as well just stay in your state and do it.
Rambunctious queers ranting about the freedom they felt when they lit a bulldozer on fire, and I thought that was pretty new and interesting, so I looked into the movement here more. I came here for the first time about a year ago, which was the first week of action that was held to defend the forest, and I haven't stayed here the whole time, but I keep being drawn back.
I first learned about this in March of this year over social media. There had been some posts circulating about the fight down here, some of the raids that happened, people getting their stuff cleared out, the forest being destroyed. I've always kind of felt drawn to the movement ever since I heard about it. I've been following it very closely on social media, looking for updates. But it eventually reached a point where I was kind of like, what am I waiting for? Because I feel like I've been waiting for something for so long. I feel like I've just been kind of sitting there watching this country collapse around me, feeling helpless and feeling like there was nothing I could do. So seeing this movement was definitely like a kind of lit a spark in me.
Protest is okay. Protest is fine, but not when you're destroying things.
Yeah.
Because why would you come from somewhere else to destroy other people's property?
Because they're a violent domestic terrorist group.
Peaceful protest is the way. You know what I mean? Violence, people get hurt.
Yeah.
So you always good to make peace.
Yeah.
You come out on that rah-rah bullshit, you gonna be dead locked up, or you gonna be got somewhere like what's going on. All right. No more Antifa.
No more Antifa.
I don't feel like this is good for the community or for the kids to see, or for the kids to know anything about.
I'm against it because I mean you're messing up a beautiful city. It's different ways to go about doing things. This is not it.
The police, like, they're meant to protect, you know? So it's like they have to protect themselves at the end of the day, and everybody human outside of clothes. So you're not just shooting at the police, you're shooting at somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, somebody's sister.
To me, that's not necessarily a protest. That's more of a riot, because protests can be done peacefully and actually make a change. Riots cause more destruction, more chaos, and more division amongst the people. And the way I see it is, if you want change, you have to go about it the right way.
After speaking with the fine people walking the streets of Atlanta, I decided to head over to Georgia State University to speak to the student population there and find out what they thought about the white domestic terrorist group Antifa attacking the city of Atlanta. Question of the day. Over the weekend, there were anti-police riots here in Atlanta. I'm not sure if you heard about that. A group called Antifa not wanting to have a new police department here. Well, what's your take on that?
Antifa is actually anti-fascist.
Okay.
So when we talk about Antifa, what we're actually saying is people that are against fascism in all its forms.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about Antifa, it's very tricky because Antifa is not an organization. That's actually just sort of more of an ideology.
So like I said, I'm glad the officer's okay, but I hate that it took something like this to happen for us to get the attention. Hopefully they'll clear the woods out now. Hopefully.
And you called the cab police yourself?
Oh, I'm the homeowner association president, so we've been very closely involved with everything going on. But it's just been, DeKalb County has taken a hands-off approach, from the county CEO. From what I understand, the police have been told don't engage. So APD has been responsible, but this is not even APD territory. So we're not even patrolled by APD. We're DeKalb County. But the cab has been told to stay, don't engage with the, people in the woods and all of this. So after the arrests that happened last month, that's when everything starts to, ratchet up. But unfortunately, we knew this would happen if they didn't clear the woods out.
So the arrest last month, 4 people?
4 or 5. Yeah.
And that didn't help?
It got a little quieter, but they're still in the woods. So they've been in the woods ever since then. They've just been doing different types of protests. They've been in the woods. From what I understand, they went in this morning to patrol, knowing that there were people in the woods. So, it hasn't done it hasn't done enough.
So then now they are, in fact, addressing your concerns. If they went into the woods this morning.
Well, they've been doing that. They've been doing that every week. So they've been going in the woods every other week or so. So they've been doing that. Last month we had 2 homes burned down around the corner. We had
burned down?
2 new homes under construction right around the corner here were burned down. The protesters were standing right outside after it happened.
Was anybody arrested?
No one was arrested because they had to determine that it was truly arson. But it was 2 homes. There's 4 homes around the corner under construction and new development. 2 were burned down to the ground. You could drive around the corner and see all 2 homes. 2 homes are burned down. This has been going on, and they've been, we're peaceful, but they're shooting at an officer. They've been throwing rocks, and we had fire, Molotov cocktails. I mean, what's the list? We got 2 homes burned down. We had heavy equipment lit on fire over here. There was a diesel tank there when they lit those on fire at 4 in the morning. My home is right on the other side of this fence. Had that exploded, it could have entered my home or one of my neighbors' homes. But these are things that have been happening nonstop.
Protest? Is this an autonomous zone? Is it maybe more than that? Is it just a community all formed in the woods that you do not want to give up?
Neither of those terms that you used, I think, really are particularly useful here or capture what's going on. What I would say is that this forest is a territory which is contested. It is contested currently, and its future is being contested, about whether it is going to become first a bulldozed wasteland and then a weird dystopian cop city where the police can practice shooting up fake buildings and plan for the next major rebellion. And then the other possibility is that the forest continues to be a forest.
Yeah, there couldn't be like a simple way to sum up what goes on here, especially, the movement to defend this forest being a movement. People living in these woods is only one part. There's so much more, way more people involved who might never spend a night sleeping in here.
In at least 2 cities that we know of, there have been banks that have been attacked in solidarity with this movement. And in these woods, construction equipment set on fire. And there's been property damage. Do you think this hinders mainstream appeal to locals? And is this sort of violent protest legitimate?
I think that in the light of the summer of 2020 and the burning of the 3rd precinct in Minneapolis, which saw a overwhelmingly positive response from tens of millions of people in this country who despise the police, I think that it's important for us to revise any preconceived notions or assumptions we might have about, who the public is or what they want or how one could appeal to them.
The 23-year-old daughter of House Minority Whip Catherine Clark was arrested for allegedly striking an officer while vandalizing public property with anti-police slogans. Tom Dempsey has more details from Washington. Tom, why is this story getting so much attention?
Yeah, well, this is one of the highest-ranking Democrats in the House we're talking about here, and her daughter this morning faces charges of vandalism and for assaulting a police officer. This all happened this past weekend in Boston when the representative's daughter was taking part in a protest held in response to a college student who was shot and killed by police earlier this month. Of course, the representative we're talking about is Representative Catherine Clark. She's a Democrat from Massachusetts who serves as the House Democratic Whip. But this past weekend, her 23-year-old daughter took part in a protest at the Parkman Bandstand Monument in Boston Common. According to police, Clark's daughter used graffiti to vandalize the monument with anti-police words and phrases and struck an officer as they tried to arrest her. She now faces multiple charges but has pleaded not guilty. In a post to Twitter, Representative Clark responded to her daughter's arrest, writing, quote, "I love Riley, and this is a very difficult time in the cycle of joy and pain and parenting. This will be evaluated by the legal system, and I am confident in that process." And again, getting back to that protest that was happening this weekend in Boston, it was held in response to a 20-year-old UMass Boston student who was shot and killed by police earlier this month after that student approached officers allegedly with a sword in their hand, a type of sword, and that student had continued to approach police officers, and they used measures against him, but none of those measures worked. And again, those officers shot and killed the college student. But during this protest in Boston, police say that a group of 20 or so protesters surrounded them during this arrest, and an officer actually got hit in the face, which caused them to bleed. So again, all sorts of stuff happened with this. But again, this morning, a representative's daughter faced charges in connection to the protest, guys.
Take a look at this video. It appears to show opponents of a controversial planned training facility for Atlanta police in a showdown with DeKalb officers.
When the police officers got there, then about 40 people came out of the woods.
Then Millsap says things turned ugly.
They jumped up on the excavator while one of my guys was operating it and actually smashed all the windows with rocks.
Millsap says vandals ripped the doors off this Ram 5500 pickup, then torched it. And he says they spray-painted threats on the sidewalk directly aimed at him.
I tradition that land because it's a beautiful space. Like, me and my friends have been riding back there for like 5+ years, and Matter of fact, we built most of those fucking trails back there, and we ride them. And I'm not against the movement, but the only thing I am against is all the fucking trash that's come out, and the littering and like
type of space that has a full AV, and it's allowed, and it's pretty much set up for the community to be able to use it for HOA meetings, resident meetings, and things like that, for the things in which you guys are conducting there in close proximity to the site. A couple of other things that are in there is that public auditorium, which is a really nice size auditorium that, again, we can do much larger events and larger space, larger things within that as well. And then also the ballrooms also, again, allow us to do things for the residents and for the community members. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody got that from that presentation.
Thank you very much for that clarification. With that, Mr. Bob Hughes.
Great, and actually that's a great lead in to this slide, because I think we've talked about this multiple times through this process, how the vision of this campus has always been one that really is a physical representation of symbolically the police and the community, fire and the community rescue, everybody together as part of the community. And as Marshall said, in the leadership building here, there are those opportunities to bring people in. But if you see here also, we have what we call the PT field, D, and a pavilion, which is E on the end of it. And the whole concept is that pavilion is as much a part of the park system as it is our campus. And that field is a field that on weekends, when it's not being used for training or the facilities here, or in the evening, you could be down there with your kids kicking a soccer ball around. So that notion that we have this duality of places and activities, it's really great to see it take.
Before we run out of time here, to Chief Tyus, who's going to give us the security update for APD.
Hey, good afternoon. No, I was enjoying that presentation as much as anyone. My officers are going to be happy to get into that facility. So thank you for the update. And actually, Chief Shearbaum and I was just going back and forth about how we can get that presentation to the officers who are out there securing that site. So that just kind of segues into what I'm going to talk about. So I'm sure you may have been seeing officers out there. So what we've committed is like at least twice a week, we take 20 to 25 officers out there, break them up into smaller groups, and they grid that property off, and they walk that entire property looking for any trespassers that may be out there, look for any tree houses they may have started building, and also looking for supplies that they may be stockpiling in the woods. Knock on wood, we haven't met any resistance out there while we've been on that property. And we have been able to locate several caches of supplies, including everything from a chainsaw to two-way radios. So anytime we locate stuff out there, we bring in our federal and state partners, they take a look at it, and we look at it for investigative evidence. While we physically patrol that property at least twice a week, we also put our drone up over there in the area. We were putting our helicopter up, but we realized it was just causing too big of a disruption to the neighborhood. So we decided to go small. So now we'll put our drone up at least once or twice a week. And even though we only have the big contingent of people out there twice a week, Major Canton, Lieutenant Thomas, they walk that property almost daily, just looking for trespassers and looking for things. Again, we haven't really seen anything, but we just ask the residents, be alert. If you see anything suspicious, please reach out to us. And if we're having any large scale operations out there, I'll be sure to push out an email or something to everybody in the group. Anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you for that update. The floor is open for questions.
I would just like to say, excuse me, Chief Tyus, I just want to commend you for the job that you're doing. I know that it's a very large property, and so I know that, again, it's also been very hot days and what feels like 100+ degree weather. And so I appreciate everybody being out there and, again, continuing to do the work. And so I know it's not easy, but I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We appreciate that.
Thank you. I see Miss Jacqueline Rennie, your hand is raised.
No objection to anything, but I just wanted to say I enjoyed watching the different projects, the way they are designed and the way the whole area is designed, it looks like it's going to be very, very good for the police officers and the firemen and rescue people. So I'm looking forward to it being completed.
Thank you for that, Jacqueline.
Ms. Rainey, I'd just like to add that I appreciate the comments, and I think you're 100% right about the work that it'll do for police and fire, and again, not just in Atlanta, but in the region for public safety professionals. When you think about EMS and their life-saving training, but I also have just a big of hope that the facility will also be as useful to the community as it will to the public safety professionals.
It was nice to see some of the community-facing elements and get a much better grasp on what those elements actually look like, and the amount of thought that has gone into it, and our feedback that has been received and incorporated. So really happy to see all of the progress being made.